Okay, well, first of all, everybody, happy end of summer. As I say in my title here, it's back to school, back to work. I wish I could say it was back to business as normal, but it's back to something. But it's basically back to why not add a podcast to the mix of all the things you do in your life? And today we are so lucky because we've got Andrew Weiss, who I've had the pleasure of attending his sessions. And Andrew is just a phenomenal evangelist, but incredibly knowledgeable about the art of podcasting. Andrew, take it away. You have the best podcasting story.
Hey everyone. Yeah, as mentioned, I'm Andrew Weiss, and my podcasting story is actually got involved in the podcasting space since around 2014 when Tim Ferriss launched the Tim Ferriss podcast. And I thought it
Jeez.
was just so interesting, hearing him speak and learning from him and hearing him interview guests. And I'll go to these conferences and events, and they would say, and they would talk about how I also had a message to spread and a story to tell. And they're like, Andrew, you got to start a podcast. And I'm like, yes, that sounds great. So I literally bought this $100 microphone. I put it on my desk in my room, and then it collected dust for the next 5 years or so. And so I'm sure some of us might have similar experiences or stories of, just like the saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And so that's true for starting your own podcast. It looks like a few of you still haven't started your own podcast yet. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll get inspired to do that. But essentially, after I did finally start my own podcast, after literally being recruited by a podcast conference to help them break a Guinness World Record for world's largest virtual podcasting event in 1 week with over 5,000 people in 2020 and 6,000 people in 2021, I finally started my own podcast in 2022. And from that podcast, I actually met my now wife, and we actually have a baby on the way, happening in a couple of weeks. So I'm super excited about that. We got married in New York City. And on top of that, I've also closed multi tens of thousands of dollars of deals through the podcast by building relationships with people, being able to interview authors who have always been a big fan of their books. And so I'll get into that more, but I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my slides and hopefully get you all
So your
excited
your
to do that.
podcast is about podcasts?
No, no, no. So my podcast is called Rapid Results with Andrew Weiss, and I interview business owners and entrepreneurs because I love nerding out on entrepreneurship and business and development and scale. So I've interviewed anywhere from people who are just starting out their business to nine-figure entrepreneurs. I
Yeah.
got to interview those people through Podmatch, which I'll talk about later in the day. But essentially, that's the beauty of podcasting is when you, I don't know about you, but I bet a lot of you are on LinkedIn nowadays. There's so many people on LinkedIn wanting to message you and connect with you and pick your brain and book you for coffee. And you're like, I don't want to do that. But if you message someone and say, hey, I want to bring you on my podcast, they're like, that sounds great. Let's do it. So I feel like that's the new
Totally.
terminology to get in front of people is rather than just saying, hey, can we meet for a virtual coffee? Say, hey, can I bring you my podcast? And it allows you to ask them, talk about whatever you want while being a benefit for both sides, essentially.
Yeah. And Podfest has turned into a big deal, as you said. And
Yes.
it's in
Oh,
where's it coming up next? Is it Houston? I forget.
it's in Orlando each year. So
Orlando.
yeah, it'll be our 12th annual event, January 15th to the 18th in Orlando, Florida. And we also do a thing called Pod Tour. And actually, everyone, hopefully for the people on Zoom today, put in the chat where you're tuning in from. I'd love to see where people are saying hi from because we also do a thing called a pod tour where we visit over 30 cities throughout the country, like what Robin went to, and talk about podcasting and creator skills and things like that. Oh, Debbie's from Portland. I'm originally from the Portland area too. Okay, we have two
Wait,
people in
which Portland? I
NYC.
always get them confused.
Oh, the Oregon Portland, the right Portland, as I like to say. Yeah, I grew up in Tigard, so yeah, there for 27 years. We're actually gonna go back there once the kids here. But okay, so NYC Portland, awesome, awesome. Yeah, we're doing another NYC meetup actually the end of the month at the Creator Lab. They're part of the Odyssey company, and so they're gonna have a nice venue. I know Robin got spoiled at Adobe when they gave us food and drinks and wine and
The food
uh
wasn't that good, but the candles were great.
Yes, with the free candles. Yes, no, Adobe took care of us.
And
So
the people, honest, Andrew, the people that you meet, the things they podcast about, and the turnarounds in their life. The woman who was a mom, a working mom, and then turned into a full-time podcaster.
oh
Um,
yeah.
fragrance and beauty people. I mean, if you have an expertise, there is an audience there. It just struck me at how diverse your audience for that pod tour was. So it's let's just say my guidance counselor never recommended becoming a podcaster. Like when I was in school, it was not a choice on the charts, but
Yeah.
clearly it is now.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to let Andrew take it away because he has so much to tell you. And if you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll leave some time for Q&A afterwards. But Andrew, your show.
All right.
Convince us.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to share my screen here and jump right in. So yeah, so a little bit more of my background. As mentioned, I met my wife through the podcasting world, and because she is a Broadway actress, and she actually during the pandemic when there's nothing else to do, she's like, "I'll start a podcast." And then because of that, she met me, and we ended up having an epic wedding on an NYC rooftop, Tribeca rooftop. For those who are in New York City, apparently a few of those amazing experience. And so I work with Podfest, one of the countries, if not not the world's, but one of the country's largest in-person podcasting conferences. We bring together about 2,000 people each year. And as mentioned, I helped Podfest break 2 Guinness World Records for world's largest virtual podcasting event. And I say get the business back because before I brought on, it was about 2,000 people in March 2020. And then literally next week, COVID happened. And so going from you could bring 2,000 people together in person to good luck bringing 5 people together in person. It was a difficult transition, but we persevered. And then, yeah, we currently have over 25,000 followers across our social media platforms. And as mentioned, I launched my own show in April 2022. And a little life hack now is I actually launched it on my birthday because people will do a lot of things for your birthday. So I was able to get that extra boost in listeners, subscribers. So if for those who haven't launched a podcast yet, use dates like that. Recommend that. All right. So we want to break this presentation into 2 parts. Part 1, we're going to talk about why podcasting is important, and then part 2, we'll talk about how to be a podcaster. So some quick facts about podcasting. Podcast advertising revenue has passed $2 billion, not million, but billion. And you can see the trends of what's going on in the industry over the past few years, according to Pod News. And this is a big deal because it shows that more and more companies are starting to realize, why would I spend $10,000 on a TV ad when I don't know who's watching? I don't know what their interests are. I don't know what they want to buy. When I know, I'll give some examples later on today. One of the guys, he runs the Produce Industry podcast. He makes almost $500,000 per year from his show because these produce companies, he's the top expert in that field. And the saying is, riches are in the niches. So they know that if they sponsor his show to talk about their company, their brand, their product, that they're getting in front of their ideal audience, their ideal customer, who is most likely to want to buy from them. And then, of course, Patrick's happy because he gets paid for his show. He gets paid to do what he loves and all the above. And I'll give more examples later. But this kind of shows you, if you're not creating a podcast, you're missing out on huge amounts of sponsor revenue. And on top of that, 41% of Americans listen to podcasts on a monthly basis. And 82% of those podcast listeners spend more than 7 hours a week listening to podcasts. This is a big deal because we live in I wish we were living in a higher trust society, but trust in media and people is definitely difficult to cope with nowadays. And one of the best ways to build trust with people is to spend time with them. And I don't know about many of you, but 7 hours a week, I don't talk to my best friends 7 hours a week. I don't talk to my family members 7 hours a week. The only person I probably talk to 7 hours a week is my wife. And that's probably because I work virtually. And the answer is, if you have a message to share, if you have a product to sell, one of the best ways to get people to buy from you is to build trust with you. And the way to do that is by starting a podcast, because people are going to be listening to you all the time and they're going to want to get to know you better. And this is one of the best ways to do that. And some more quick facts is that 82% of podcasts are inactive, which means they haven't posted in the last 90 days. And so whenever you hear the term, oh, there's millions of podcasts out there. Why would you ever start a podcast? Well, even though there's millions of podcasts out there, a lot of them are inactive, which means if you do have an active podcast, you're already in the top 20% of all podcasts out there, and you're able to stand out that much more. And on top of that, only 40% of podcasts even make it past 10 episodes. All right. Just imagine like you're running a marathon and you only make it to mile 5. That doesn't count as running a marathon. Like you still got another 20 miles to go. And so I want to say, like, I believe in you that if you start a podcast, if you can just get past that 10 episode mark, it highly increases your chances of success with having a consistent show, bringing in sponsor revenue, getting clients from your podcast, all the above. And so a lot of people have the notion that too many podcasts out there. I mean, if you go to a library and someone told you, oh, you should never write a book because there's too many books out there, hopefully you give them the middle finger because you still have a message to share. You still have a story to tell. And just because there's other books, other podcasts out there doesn't mean you shouldn't still tell your story in those formats. So I was talking about trust earlier on. American trust in large media brands is rapidly decreasing. And as of right now, across the aisle, whether you're red or blue, YouTube is the #1 most trusted news source site across the aisle. And guess what? The largest podcasting platform in the world is YouTube. So if you want to be known as a trusted source, if you want to be in someone's ear for 7 hours a week, if you want to have people easily buy from you, purchase from you, trust you, having a podcast is the way to go. So this is Podmatch, one of the platforms I mentioned earlier, and I believe Gigi put it in the chat as well. I love Podmatch because the founder used to use the phrase, it's like a Tinder for podcasters, but doesn't have to be romantic per se. But it makes it super easy to connect with other influencers and people as a podcast host to bring them on your show. And if you're a guest, they make it super easy as a guest to go on other people's shows as well. And so this is how I was able to interview 9-figure entrepreneurs and get a chance to connect with top authors that I wouldn't have otherwise had access to, because sometimes it's difficult to find their social media handle or their email. And this Podmatch platform is a great way to guest on other shows and also bring amazing guests on your shows. And it's kind of cool as a host because you literally have people, dozens, hundreds of people competing to be on your show, and you can pick the best, message them beforehand. And Podmatch actually pays you as a host to bring on Podmatch guests on your shows. So that part's pretty cool too as well. So as mentioned too, that as I said earlier in the presentation, that you might be getting dozens of messages a week, if not hundreds of people want to connect with you, versus if they offer you to bring you on their podcast, or if you offer someone to bring them on your show, you have a much higher chance of actually connecting with them, building that relationship. So I hear a lot of people here in today's presentation are video content creators, and that's amazing. And so hopefully you've optimized your video capabilities by turning it into audio. And I have this image because a lot of people listen to podcasts while they're driving, while they're doing laundry, while they're working out, before they're going to sleep. And so we don't want you to miss out on potential audiences just because you're doing video only. And it is very easy to take the audio from your video and turn it into a podcast. I literally do it with one of my clients right now. And it's just, we've already gotten 500 views on YouTube from it. We already at 200 podcasts or 200 downloads, just because he was already creating video content, and we said, let's turn it into a podcast, and was able to get him more ears to listen to him that way. And so, as mentioned, just make it easy for them. Don't let video only hold you back from reaching more people, essentially. So Patrick Kelly, as I mentioned, he's the one who produces the industry show, or the produce industry show. He came to PodFest a few years ago. He was working in the produce industry already. It was basically his day job per se. And after going to several PodFest events over a few years, his show and his profitability kept growing and growing and growing. And that's the thing is, you might be hearing, oh, $300,000 a year, $500,000 a year, that's a lot of money. How do you do that? Well, the answer is it took him 3 to 5 years to even get to that point in the first place, with the consistency of going again and again and again. And it's just kind of recognizing, going back to the riches are in the niches, that the crazy thing about all this is he does not get that many downloads per month. And he doesn't need that many downloads because he knows, once again, he's getting in front of the right people for the right topics. And this is Victoria King Meyer. She has a show called The Chemical Show. Like it's not a show called How to Make Money. It's not a personal finance show. It's literally a show talking about chemicals. And she's already doing multi six figures a year off this show because she's learned how to build relationships with the right companies, the right brands that want to get in front of their audience who wants to nerd out on chemicals. And then one more final example, we have Ariel here. She's the food truck scholar. She has a food truck and she nerds out on her podcast about food trucks as well. And she also makes multi six figures from her show because these sponsors, these brands, they know that if they get in front of her audience, they get in front of their ideal audience. So recognize too that you don't need that many downloads or listeners or episodes to make money from your show. As long as you have the right people listening, as long as you have the right partnerships, that's the most important thing. All right, so we've talked about why podcasting is important. And I believe Robin wanted to take a break here and go over any Q&A before we go into our next part of how do you actually be a podcaster. So yeah, are there any questions, comments, concerns about anything I've said so far?
Yeah, so I just wrote in the chat window, okay, gang, what's the weirdest podcast you listen to? Um, I tend to listen to a lot of political ones myself, some bad, some not. But I'll tell you and I've told Andrew this, one of my biggest beefs is they take so long to get into. You have to hear about how their week was, how their day was, the banter back and forth before they get to the meat of it is one of the, when I listen to podcasts, I'm looking for that quick hit of information. I don't know how the rest of you feel. Anybody want to chime in? Kate, put yourself on.
Hi, you guys. Hey, yeah, I find myself kind of clicking through to see where I can get to, especially if the lead is like how hormone replacement therapy will help old ladies. I don't want to hear too much before I get to the punchline. Some of them have that thing that they put, I don't know what you guys would know, where there's a list of all the topics and you can see where they're going to be, so you can kind of find it. That's convenient. And I listen to a bunch of different podcasts. Everything from Agenda Free TV. I don't know if you've seen that. It's pretty astonishing. To I listen to Candace Owen. I listen to Joe Rogan. I listen to Candace Owen she's got more courage than she's blown me away with how much guts that kid has.
Yep.
But yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't believe any of the media anymore. Don't even hope.
Yeah.
Don't even hope.
No
And
one.
the reason I always loved Joe Rogan since forever is you get 3 hours to listen to somebody talk. You can try to figure out, is there truth here? And then there's the occasional big surprise where
Yeah.
what's his name? The FBI
Yeah.
guy is saying it's all fine. And then Joe gets
Yeah.
a thing saying, oops. And all of a sudden everything comes to the screen. You get to watch that line. But anyway, darling, yeah, I love podcasts. Yeah.
Anybody else? Oh, I see somebody put a whole bunch in the chat. Somebody's got a podcast listener. I'm a big Kara Swisher, Professor Galloway listener because they do get right to the point. Then you know what they're going to talk about in their segment pretty much before it gets started. Trader Joe's. I love that, Debbie. Right. It is a really good podcast. So what now? I think what we're going to do is have Andrew talk to us of sort of more nuts and bolts in podcast 102. How do you get started? And for each one of you that might be in a different place in your journey, some might be hardware, some might be distribution, some might be content. Andrew's going to sort of go through some basic 102 tips.
Yeah, and I'm curious too. Put in the chat a 1 if you already have a podcast and you're looking to improve it, or put a 2 if you are still on the fence of even starting a podcast in the first place. I'm curious. Yeah, 1 if you already have a podcast, or 2 if you're still looking to possibly start one. Okay, a lot of twos. Okay, Tony 2, Remus 2, Debbie 2. Okay, all right. So that's good to know. So hopefully I can make it simplified for you. So I'm going to keep sharing my presentation here. All right, so we've gone over why podcasting is important, why you should even start it in the first place. And now let's talk about how to be a podcaster. So I like this meme because sometimes it's difficult to think about how do you even get started with the podcast in the first place, and you don't know where to hit, where to start. But a lot of people get wrong with their podcast is that it's not tangible. There's no deadlines, and then also there's no why behind it. And so when I say it's not tangible, people are like, I want to start a podcast. I'm like, about what? And they're like, oh, just talking. So the more specific you can be, the better. So going back to, there's a lot of podcasts out there that talks about food, and versus, as you can see with those two examples of the niches of Patrick and Ariel, Patrick doesn't just talk about food, he talks about the produce industry. Ariel just doesn't talk about food, she talks about food trucks. So what layer, deepness, specificity, whatever that word is, can you get when it comes to creating a tangible podcast? And then also when people tell me they want to start a podcast, I'm like, great. I say when, they're like, I don't know. And so it's good to have a deadline that, hey, I want to have a podcast launched in the next 3 months. I want to have a podcast launched in the next 2 months, the next 4 months. So our founder, Chris, he has a great story where when he was publishing his first book, he was talking to his friends and he goes, I want to publish a book by August. And I think like July was coming around. He hadn't made any progress on his book. He was on like page 1 or whatever. And his friend helped hold him accountable by saying, congratulations, Chris, on your book coming out on August 20th. And so all these people just started messaging Chris and going, hey, congrats on your book, congrats on your book. And Chris is going, crap, I guess I better start writing this book now. And so that just shows the importance of putting a deadline in place. You actually go out and do it and make it happen. And then finally, people don't have a why behind their podcast, in the sense that they go, oh, I just want to have a podcast just because. Okay, just because is good, but will be better is, do you want to start a podcast because you want to have a lot of fun creating a podcast with a loved one and just being able to spew a lot of life advice? Do you want a podcast because you want to get more clients for your business? Do you want a podcast because you want to have the feeling of getting sponsorships for your show and then being a full-time podcaster? Having a why behind why you're starting the show in the first place is what's going to keep driving you, helping you stay consistent, perform at your best, improve every single time. And it really does make a big difference. So once again, make sure your podcast is tangible as far as what it's about and make it as specific as you can. Make sure there's a deadline for when you're going to produce it, when's your first episode going to be, how often you're going to produce it. And the beauty of this is that you get to be the captain. So you get to decide whether your podcast comes out once a month, once a week, or even every single day. So that's the beauty of this too, is that you're the captain in this process. And then now we're going to talk about strategizing your podcast launch, about the why behind your show. So yeah, going back to what I said earlier, you want to ask yourself, do you want to do it just for fun? Do you want to do it to make money? Are you doing it out of spite just because you had a bad experience with an ex and you just need to go off for whatever reason while being anonymous because podcasts are audio only? And that's the beauty of podcasting. So, it's good to hear from Kate that, you're listening to multiple news sources. And what was unfortunate is when we were going through people say we're still in a cancel culture thing, but the beauty of podcasting is people can't cancel you or remove your podcast. As far as I know, it hasn't happened in any examples that I know of. And people talk about some very extreme things in many ways on podcasts. But yet, if you want to protect yourself to making sure your message is heard no matter what, having a podcast is one of the best ways to make sure that your voice, your message is protected. So when it comes to hyping up your podcast launch, you should ask yourself who you should collaborate with. The biggest myth that was ever told, it's unfortunate, I think the movie's called Field of Dreams, when the saying, people think it's, oh, if you build it, they will come. And this is such a popular saying that everyone goes, oh, all I have to do is create it, and then everyone will want to buy it, and everyone will want to listen. That's not the case, unfortunately. And what people don't realize is one of the reasons why Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast in the world is not because he's the world's best podcaster, not because he interviews the most high-profile guests or is the best interviewer. It's because he built a brand outside of podcasting that helped contribute to them all wanting to come listen to his podcast on top of that. Remember, he was the host of Fear Factor. He's involved with UFC. He does a lot of other things that help build that audience to help them become the top podcasts in the world. So when you're thinking about launching your podcast, it's important to recognize and think about who can you get to help promote your show? How many shows can you go on to talk about your show? As I mentioned earlier, what are some ways that you can constantly promote it? And at PodFest, we have this guy named Bruce Wozniak who talks about 20 ways to promote your podcast. And in his presentation, one of those ways is I'm pretty sure he got like a local church to promote his podcast because his podcast was Christian based. And so just constantly think about ways that building it isn't good enough. It also takes time to promote it and leverage it, and recognize if you want to get more listens and downloads, you got to put in the work as well. And as mentioned here too, if you want to have a significant launch date, one of my clients, Inner Sense Beauty, they're one of the top hair care brands in the world, amazing brand. And they wanted to launch their podcast during a mental health awareness month during May. And so that meant a lot to them, and they were able to help promote it in that way. So thinking about that as well. So when it comes to content planning, I noticed a few of you said that while you love talking to yourself, sometimes it's difficult to think about what do you actually want your podcast to be about. You don't have that excuse anymore because of the power of Perplexity and Grok and ChatGPT, where you could literally say, let's see, I think it was Debbie that said she was a fan of Trader Joe's, and let's say she wants to start her own podcast about Safeway or something, or Whole Foods, or something like that. And so she would literally type into Grok or Perplexity or ChatGPT and say, hey, I want to start a podcast about why Whole Foods is the best grocery store out there. What are 10 episode ideas I should use for the next 10 episodes? And it will literally lay out all the talking points you should touch on. And maybe you'll talk about, why certain deals are better, why certain hospitality or atmosphere is better than Trader Joe's. And you don't have to think to yourself, oh, what should I talk about in this episode? What should I talk about this episode? Like, it will literally lay it out for you, and then it's just a matter of you putting in the work. So that's the beauty of it. And then also recognizing too that, as I said earlier, about we live in a society where trust can be sometimes hard to come by. And going back to building trust means getting in front of people as much as possible so they're comfortable learning from you, from buying from you. And I love this quote from the Biz Bros where they say, if you're out of sight and out of mind, then you're out of business. And that is so true, because nowadays, most people have the attention, I think, is officially less than a goldfish, where you probably don't know what the last trending person was last week. So the only way to be a trending person is to constantly be in front of people as much as possible, so that they can actually remember you, what you do, who you serve, how you serve them. And one of the best ways to do that is to constantly put yourself out there and, of course, have a podcast. Please be with that. And I believe Lao Tzu said the journey of 1,000 podcast episodes begins with one episode. So make sure to just get that one episode in. Chris's book is called Start Ugly. And it was kind of the same way with my podcast as well, is that, the first few episodes were a little rougher than the other ones. And then it took me some time to learn how about editing and post-production and things like that. But you just got to get started with that first episode in the first place and just always stay one step ahead. So we've talked about how to strategize the launch of your podcast. And now let's get into some more nuts and bolts of basics needed for your show to be published in the first place. And then also we'll get into systems for being long-term successful as well. So make sure you get a design cover for your show. I had someone create this on Fiverr. And put a one in the chat if you're familiar with Fiverr or Upwork, or if you've ever used any virtual assistant production before. Go ahead and put a one in the chat if you've ever gotten help from anything. Okay, yeah, looks like Robin's used it. That's good. And then Kate says she loves Cog Hill Farm.
Yeah.
Tell you the name.
That was in progress before. Handshake.
Oh, nice. Love that. So it's super easy to get a design cover made. This was a headshot I had a professional photographer take, and then you literally just go on Fiverr and say, help me design a good cover, and you go back and forth to be able to create that. You also want to make sure you have an intro and an outro for your show. Once again, I used Fiverr for mine, and basically had this guy say my name and add some cool sound effects and music to get people excited. as well. Oh, Handshake. Yeah, the platform Handshake. Yeah, that's a good one too. So yeah, I'll make sure to put the links in the chat at the end of here, Fiverr as well, to get you all a sense of that. But with also great tools, you can negotiate pricing, but I'll go into that later. Yeah, and also, yeah, I had Gigi put in the chat a link to a Shure SM7B microphone, and you don't have to have the fanciest microphone to get started with podcasting. So going back to the why behind your show, like I'm not necessarily trying to get sponsors for my show or monetize it. I just want to get in the habit of, interviewing awesome people and learning from them and building relationships with people. And so that's the beauty, is that even if you literally talked into your iPhone to create your podcast episodes, that's okay too. Because another thing, I'm going to go into a tip later on, or a tool later on. Adobe Podcast has a free tool that one of my friends, who unfortunately passed away, but he was just so excited calling me one day. He goes, Andrew, I just did a podcast episode where I was on my phone in the middle of this windy road. The sound was awful. I put the audio into this Adobe Podcast software, and it sounded like I was speaking into a $2,000 microphone. And so just kind of showing you once again that even if you're balling on a budget, just whether you're using headphone microphone or iPhone microphone, just get started and start ugly so you can get some momentum going. And then these are some of my favorite hosting platforms for podcasts. I personally use Alitu. Gigi is going to put the links in here for these two hosting platforms as well, because it makes it super easy to just, what I do for my show is it's a live stream show. And so I basically record it, and then I put it into Alitu, and then I drag in a pre-recorded intro, and then I drag in the pre-recorded outro. Alitu automatically audibly makes everything better, essentially. I click publish, and it makes it super easy. Buzzsprout is also a super user-friendly platform as well, and they make it easy to make sure you're on all the platforms, from iHeart to Sticker to YouTube and Spotify, Apple. Of course, Alitu will put you on Spotify and Apple as well, and YouTube. But Buzzsprout, it makes it easier to show you're on like 20 different platforms at once, which is pretty cool, like Podchaser and things like that. So these are my two favorite platforms for podcast hosting. And then, but yeah, that's essentially how a podcast works, is that you have an audio file, you then have to upload the audio file to a hosting platform, and then that hosting platform is what makes it possible for you to be live on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and things like that. And then people can go in and like your show, review it, and all the above. But that's essentially the gist of it, is you need to make sure you have a good hosting platform to use it with. All right, so we've talked about how to strategize the launch of your show. We've talked about some basics needed for your show to be published. Now let's talk about some systems to be successful in the long term.
Andrew, let me just ask
Yeah.
you a quick question.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still around, but for a hot minute, there were a lot of podcast studios you could rent by the hour. You could walk in
Oh,
there
yeah.
and just do your thing. They'd be
Yeah.
set up with the equipment. Is that something you'd suggest?
Yeah, so if you have the budget for it, because there's some people here in New York City, my wife actually joined the Gotham Production Studios network recently. I'm going to put that link in the chat. Yeah, they're a studio space in New York City, and that makes you look like you're $1 million podcaster from the get-go. So
Yeah.
I think I think like space access is free, but then they charge you for editing your videos and stuff. But the answer is, yeah, if you're stressed about, having perfect equipment or a perfect background or anything like that, I would recommend going to a studio just to make yourself look super professional and amazing. And so Salisha, my wife, her show is called The Salisha Show, where Broadway meets culture. And she's interviewing these, B-list, A-list celebrities. And yeah, it's cool to do it virtually over Zoom. But when they go into the studio and see how legit it looks and feels, it really does increase your brand as a podcaster as well, to be in such a nice studio space as well.
No, it's funny. Just as an aside, there is a downtown bookstore that just uses its front window space for podcasting. And I think if more retailers, let's just say you were H&M or Gap, if you had a couple of podcasters come in, I think we're just beginning to see retailers and businesses, restaurants, thinking about this as a source of amplification for what they do. So, yeah. So if the point is, everybody, if you don't want to be bothered with the technology, you can just go rent a space.
Yes, no, 100%. And they take care of everything for you and make it easy. And I agree, like as a podcaster and content creator, like you should have some Fiverr systems in place. I help people produce podcasts as well. So if you want to talk about helping me produce your show, happy to do that. Otherwise, yeah, go to Fiverr, Upwork, Handshake. But as a podcaster, all you should stress about is worrying about what you're going to say, who you're going to interview, showing up, pressing record, pressing stop record, and then letting the post-production people take care of the rest. And of course, Elite 2 makes it easy for that done for yourself or do it yourself post-production. But regardless, like, yeah, don't get too in the weeds of all the technical stuff because it's what's most important to you creating content in the first place. And I see
And
that.
Remus put a question in the chat for you, and I don't know if I said that name right, so I apologize. Length. What are your thoughts on the length of a spotlight, a length of a podcast?
So that's the beauty of podcasting is it goes back to you're the captain. You have Joe Rogan, the top podcast downloaded in the world. His episodes are about 2, 3, 4 hours long. And there's literally a podcast out there where each episode is 5 minutes long, and it's still one of the top podcasts in the world. On average, an average podcast episode is about 30 minutes. And so I'd say that's like a range you can play with if you're like just want an excuse to get started per se. But yeah, it goes back to you're the captain. So if you just want quick 10 to 15 minute episodes, one of my clients, that's what he wants. If you want an excuse to talk to people for an hour and a half, you could do that too.
Yeah.
For my own show, I mean, it depends how the conversation's going. Sometimes I'm not really enjoying the conversation, so I'll cut off at like 40 minutes. Other times I'm like, I wish I could talk forever, and we go for an hour and 20 minutes.
And so when you have
so
when you have a guest on the other side, you're interviewing somebody remotely, I assume. What's the worst thing that's happened to you? Like their sound doesn't work, their video doesn't work, they look terrible, they're got a spot on the shoulder. I don't know. How do you deal with, especially when you have guests on your podcast?
Yeah, so I
That's
do
more
a
video.
I do a live stream show, and so I'm about 80 episodes into my show, and I think only 1 or 2 episodes I had some kind of technical glitch where like the live stream went out and like it made me disappear, but like the guest was on or whatever. So that was unfortunate. And then I think another time too, I did forget to press record for one of my guests, and so that interview
Yeah.
was a wash, which was unfortunate. So I had to bring it, but he was a good sport. I brought him back on and was able to hear from him again. So that was good.
Yeah.
But overall, my guests have been pretty good. And so I've been very fortunate and loved hearing from guests and or talking and
Yeah.
interviewing them. Yeah, my wife is experimenting right now. She's used to having an interview only show, and she's experimenting with having some more solo episodes. And I know I got to be better about doing some solo episodes too. And so yeah, going back to you're the captain, that's the beauty of it is you can have an interview only show, a solo show, a mix and match of both. It just kind of depends on what you want to do.
And somebody asked, overall, do you know how B2B podcasts are doing versus B2C?
Well, Tony, can you clarify what you mean
Go
by
ahead,
that?
Tony.
Yeah,
You could turn on your mic.
yeah,
Business to business compared to business to consumer.
yeah. But like, what do you mean in that?
Like if you did something that's very niche for people in a certain, let's say a lawyer wanting to do litigation podcast only, compared to something that everybody would want to listen to, like an exercise podcast.
Yeah, so it goes back to like I recommend like the more niche you could be, the better. So one of our Podfest members is he runs the Compliance Podcast Network, and a lot of people who aren't lawyers but probably get bored by something called compliance, but he's a full-time podcaster and makes multi-six figures a year just talking about compliance and hosting other shows that also talk about compliance. And so the answer is yeah, in my experience, when you do B2B podcasts, you have a higher chance of getting corporate sponsorships and brands versus business to consumer podcasts. There's benefits to both for sure. It depends on which excites you more. And it sounds like it doesn't hurt to do 2 podcasts, one about exercise, one about being a lawyer. Yeah.
But Tony, you think, and I'm asking you, you should do one or the other, not both. Like 1 week it shouldn't be B2B and 1 week it should be B2C. You should pick your pool and jump in, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Well,
and I think I see
And
people make
another
that
thing too
mistake.
that I mean, you can also maybe if you're equally passionate, something else that could be unique is a niche is that the fit lawyer, and just talk about yeah, like the importance of exercise while dropping some lawyer knowledge, and you'd be surprised, who would tune into things like that as well.
Yeah. I think it'd be confusing if you jump back and forth.
Yeah, just so that's the beauty of podcasting is people listen to you because they want to listen to you and they know what they're signing up for. So, because if
Yeah.
you go to Apple Podcasts and type in lawyer podcast, you're going to get thousands of podcasts on being a lawyer. If you go into podcasts and talk about fitness podcasts, you're going to get thousands of podcasts about fitness. But if you type in lawyer fitness, there's Tony at the top of the list. Oh, he's a lawyer. He's in fitness too. I got to check him out and listen to one of his episodes.
Tony, you got a future in this. I see this. I see this happening.
Yeah.
I'm
It-
not a
it-
lawyer yet.
Yeah, it's funny.
Okay.
And I think with podcasts too, this idea of like, we'll announce our October meeting in a few minutes, but it's got a spooky theme. I don't know what it is yet, but it's got a spooky theme because looked at the calendar. So whether it's Dog Day, and if you look at trending things on YouTube, it's a great way to get timely podcast ideas and then bring them back. So next year you bring back your dog show on Dog Day, and so it's I think I always need a gut sense for what's trending. Man, if you had a Robert Redford podcast this week, you'd be
Yeah,
doing
seriously.
really
Yeah.
well.
Yes, exactly. That's so true.
Or a Jimmy Kimmel one.
Or Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, yeah. Not trying to stay away from that one, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Andrew, we digress.
All right, no worries. Yes. Let's see. I know we have like 15 minutes left and I have a lot of things, so I try not to fire hose you guys with info, but yeah, we'll just keep going. And then of course, if you have more questions, we'll stop and answer them. All right. So yeah, we'll talk about, plan your content constantly using ChatGPT or Grok, whatever you want to use. So when I say test and experiment, what to talk about. So yeah, in Tony's example, maybe his first 3 episodes were talking about, being a fit lawyer. And he's like, you know what, I'm just going to talk about, a deal or a run that a race that I competed in and why it was the best race I ever competed in. And then all of a sudden he went from like 10 downloads an episode to like 100 downloads an episode. He's like, oh, maybe I'm onto something here. Maybe instead of talking about lawyer stuff, maybe I just need to talk about what are the best and toughest races in America and why. And then so the only way to find that out is to test and experiment. And as mentioned too, always be at least 10 steps ahead. So if you start a podcast, please get past that 10 episode mark. I believe in you. You got this. It really is a huge milestone to be in the upper echelon of podcasts out there. And going back to, if you need to use ChatGPT or whatever source you use, just type in what are 10 episode ideas, and then give me another 10 episode ideas, then another 10 episode ideas, and it will keep giving them to you so you can always stay 10 steps ahead. And then also, as Benjamin Franklin said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So I think we must also ask, like, how often should you podcast? Going back to you're the captain. So even if you just start off doing once a month, just getting some kind of consistency going, that's definitely important. So if you decide you want to do it every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern or every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern or whatever, just as long as you have some consistency going to help make sure that you stay on track with things and being able to do that. I also love Cast Magic as well for creating show notes for your episode. And so making sure that makes things easier for there. I think I forgot to put that link in the chat, so I'll make sure to do that at the end there. But they're a great AI platform. You upload all your audio, and then based on that audio, it'll tell you, oh, here's what to post on LinkedIn to promote your episode. Here's what to post on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Here's some key parts of your episode that people should check out. Here's some quotes from the episode. So I'll make sure to put that link in the chat later on as well as the Fiverr thing as well at Opus Clip. We'll go over that. We're going to skip that here. And so actually, we are going to do this. So everyone, I want everyone to go ahead and put your hands above your head as high as you can. You too, Gigi. Come on. Hands above your head, high as you can. Now lift them even higher. All right, good job. You can put your hands back down. So I wanted to show all of you that sometimes we think we know our limits. We think we know how far we can go, but we can always go further. All right. Sometimes we doubt ourselves. I don't know if I can start a podcast or not. I'm reaching my hands out as high as I can. And I say, just get started. You're like, okay, let's do it. So you got this. I believe in you. And then we can make it happen. So I'm gonna go back to
Yeah.
the, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, and I think for some of us that came from other medium, I'll give you a great example. I was the editor of PC Magazine. We started in print, and then I said to my authors, you sort of got to do a little voice thing too. And then I said, you got to do a little video too. You're not getting paid anymore, but so, and even this show, I mean, we do a monthly meeting, but we also do a newsletter, and we also do all our events. So the trick is to be parsimonious about it, like use that content. You will see us clip this up into short little bits and put it out on social as tips. You will see us archive it on the website so it fills up the website, promoting and continuing to work with you. So it's sort of getting in this mindset where nothing, it's like recycling, nothing gets wasted, right?
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's see. I know we have like 10 minutes left, so I actually have a few more tips to provide you all on ways to optimize things. So if you do end up using Fiverr, just so you know, you can negotiate pricing. So like this guy said, hey, do you do bulk editing pricing that's cheaper than what you normally do? You usually say yes. So make sure you can always negotiate on Fiverr. And then also, yeah, if you want to know like some trends to look out for, there's a great website called answerthepublic.com, where you can get a sense of what's trending in the industry. So for other things you can talk about. And just so you know too, yeah, YouTube has canceled its trending tab and they have charts now. vidIQ is also a great, oh, what was that?
Yeah, right. No, you're right. They canceled it. Yes.
Yes. And so our founder, Chris, he's creating content around parrots now. And so if you don't want to use ChatGPT and you want something like already in the YouTube industry, it tells you what are the top trends for anything parrot related. And so he just typed in parrots and it says, oh, here's some parrot care tips and tricks I should make for my next video. Here's some DIY parrot toys that I should post about. So that makes life easy for you as well. As I mentioned, Upwork and Fiverr are great tools to use. Podmatch is a great tool. The Adobe Enhanced Speech. So yeah, that link I believe is podcast.adobe.com, and it's free to use. And you literally just upload any audio file, and it's crazy like hearing the difference of like the before and after. Like you could be in a loud cafe and like have all this like plates clanking around you and people talking, and then you upload the audio file and it will make you sound like you're in a high quality production studio. So highly recommend checking out Adobe Podcast, and also one of the big sponsors of Podfest. So definitely check them out. I mentioned castmagic.io. That's the website to go to for that. Descript.com is also another great website too. Opus.pro, headliner.app. They're cool because you upload like let's say a 30 to 60 minute video, and it will take little clips anywhere from 15 seconds to 60 seconds or 2 minutes that have a high chance of looking good on social media. So you can make it easy to promote your content that way as well. And then, yeah, one of our newsletter editors, Larry, he made a list of great tools to use. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, go ahead, as far as what tools to use to make your podcast production easy as well. So I'll give this like 10 more seconds to take a screenshot of this. All right, and then yeah, if you're still struggling to create thumbnails for your YouTube videos, definitely check out Canva. They have some great templates going on there. And yeah, that about concludes things as far as hopefully what you understand now why podcasting is so important, why you need to get on the wagon, just get started, get it going. You learned about how to be a podcaster, and now I'll open up for Q&A as well.
I think we've covered so much. So we will do a little post-production work on this, and we will have the full episode up as well as snippets on Virtual Events Group. And I just want to switch over to, I'm gonna bore you guys with a few little last housekeeping in these last couple of minutes. Never mind that. Never mind that. Never mind Podcasting 102. Andrew did an amazing job. Can we just raise our hands for him? Because if you weren't inspired to podcast before, you will do it now. So let me tell you what we've been up to and where we're going. Virtual events group, we started during the pandemic just so you had a fighting chance to survive events during 2 years. Pandemic's in the rearview mirror, but we're very much involved helping people techify and futurify their shows, bringing in new audiences. So we just came back from IFA Berlin, where we helped them do their creator hub, which for them, it is a very interesting show because we had to actually find creators in Europe that we didn't know before. We feel like we know Fabio Marcello and all his friends on a first name basis now. TikTok was gracious enough to get involved with us and really talk about the European market. And we didn't mention translation tools in the podcasting, but don't forget, it's a wide, wide world. So after IFA, where do we go? We will be at IMEX in the beginning of October. IMEX, if you don't know, is a show about destinations and how to choose them for your next meeting. We believe technology should be a big part of how you choose a destination. So my good friend Sherry Huss from Freeman, David Adler, who if you don't know from BizBash will be on the panel, and CJ Davis, who's got an activation in our booth that will give you a take-home high-tech memory that you can actually walk out and say, my favorite destination is, choose it, and then they'll send you back an animated video. So that's the idea of tying tech into live events. From there, we go to, this is a great one. We're starting it in New York. First show, first time ever, October 20th, building a community of people in the video business, in the financial business. So the people who broadcast from NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange, Goldman, JP Morgan, will all be at this show. It is free to attend. It is vetted, credentialed only, but go to wallstreet.video and apply to register. And we have a capacity. It's in New York City at the Green Room, so we're limited by numbers, but we're pretty excited about building new tech-forward communities in different industries. And then, of course, we'll be at CES. And if you are in any of these spaces, this is what we care about at CES this year, the retail space, startup finance, if you're an entrepreneur who's afraid of frittering away their first couple of million, or if you're a sage VC with advice. We're also doing a big track on wearables, including AI wearables and neurables, which is exciting, and then our creator space, which will look at the burgeoning creator economy. And from there, we go to, where do we go? We go to the NAB show, where again, we build the creator lab for them, much more tool focused. It is tips and techniques that you can walk away with and use as a creator, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're a videocaster, whether you're starting a new social network. NAB is all about telling your story with video, and we are all seeing that. It struck me the other day when Accenture had to do their big turnaround, 700,000 people had to be reorged. She didn't send out an email, she sent out a video. And that should tell you all where we're heading, that it is our language. And with that, we're going to take you through to our next event, which is in January, at the end of January, in Mountain View at the Computer History Museum. And it is for the folks in the Valley that also need to think video first. It's the LinkedIns and the Apples and the Microsofts and the Metas who all want to learn more about video first, whether it's AI generated, whether it's worldwide produced. And those are the kinds of topics we will introduce there. And that is how to keep up with us. And in October, and we will be here on the 30th, and we're going to urge you all to dress in costume. And we're not sure what we have planned yet, but it's going to be really good. It will involve events and spooky gatherings. I'll let you know as that unfolds. So we'll see you same time on October 30th. Once again, I just want to bring it back to Andrew and just say, you've inspired so many people to get in front of their microphones and do great things. I've watched you at work now for a while. Hope everybody goes to PodFest and continues to follow you. But what do we hope for the most? That your baby is a wonderful addition to your family, and that we get to follow your wife on her Broadway travels.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And yeah, I also put a couple links in the chat as well that oh yeah, it looks like yeah, Gigi's got it all taken care of. So yeah, I'm
Oh my
curious.
God. Can I just say breaking news? Oracle and A16Z are going to control 80% of the US TikTok company.
Oh, that's the big announcement. Oh, interesting. And that's why the stock has been shooting up. Interesting.
You heard it here first or second.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's first for me. But yeah, and I'm curious too. So put a one in the chat if you are going to start a podcast after hearing this presentation today, or put a two if you're still on the fence, or put a three if you're like, podcasting is never for me ever. I'm curious what you all thought after today's presentation. Okay.
I'm
Robert,
leaning towards one, but
okay. 1.5, two plus, two. Okay. All right. No worries. Yeah. It's a three. Okay. No worries, Bill. It's all good.
oh, Bill, come on, you're doing this with me. It's going to be like the Insomniacs podcast.
Oh, that's a good one.
No, that is not me. I'm behind the scenes. I'm behind the camera. I'm not in front.
In podcasts, you don't have to show your face. Just
No,
saying.
that's just not me. Robin will tell you.
I
Oh,
get it.
but
I'm working
Bill,
behind the scenes.
you know everybody and you'd have some great guests. Just saying, giving you a little encouragement there. But seriously, we don't want to take up any more of your time. Thanks to all of you for showing up and our friends on LinkedIn and Facebook. Hope you've enjoyed as well. See you in October. Virtual Events Group and Andrew Weiss saying goodbye.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye.